What's your story?
What does accessibility mean to you?
How can technology contribute to greater inclusivity?
accessiBe Spotlight Sessions.
In collaboration with Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind's digital series, Where Are We Now?
Featuring Alex Dunn, the founder and CEO at Cephable. Hello and welcome to the Where Are We Now and Spotlight Sessions collaboration podcast. Together, the Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind and accessiBe are working side by side to foster a better understanding and empathy between the blind and business communities. We will be highlighting the challenges, triumphs, and daily realities faced by people who are blind or visually impaired and those with disabilities. And we'll be exploring the latest trends, technologies, and policies that are shaping a more inclusive digital world and accessible future for all. My name is Josh Basil. I'm your co-host for today's show. I'm a C4-5 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders, and a power wheelchair user. I'm the community relations manager at accessiBe and a passionate disability rights advocate and trial attorney focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities.
I'm Jocelyn Hunter, your other co-host for today's show. I am Senior Director of Communications at Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind. CLB is a nonprofit serving the Washington, D.C. region through programs and services for people of all ages who are blind or visually impaired.
Today, we will be talking with Alexander Dunn, the founder and CEO of Cephable, which is an AI-powered accessibility platform empowering people of all abilities to control their technology on their own terms, such as leveraging adaptive voice controls, face expression, head movement, virtual buttons, automation, and more. Alex is an international speaker, author, and software architect. He has been recognized as a Forbes 30 Under 30 Boston Award. In 2024, Alex also won the SXSW pitch competition, further highlighting his contributions to the industry through the creation of innovative world technologies. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome, Alex. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Awesome. Yeah, me too.
Let's get started. What inspired your career direction?
Oh, man. I mean, my career's been mostly focused in software product development, applied machine learning. I've sort of been in the technology space even as a kid. I started to learn how to code when I was like 11 years old. I was homesick one day and bugging my parents too much. And they said, here, take this book and go to the family computer and start to figure some things out. And was sort of hooked from there. So through middle school and high school, I studied a lot in computer science. I worked for my first job at 16 at University of New Hampshire's Emerging Technology Center, building mobile apps and web apps for local businesses. Then went to study computer science at WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, before I dropped out and sort of went directly into industry. After a startup of mine had a little bit of success, and then did some work in consulting, some work in the sort of more specific machine learning, natural language processing, a little bit more modern AI, and then now running Cephable. So it's always been sort of backed by technology, but I think more specifically when it comes to assistive tech and accessibility, that focus for me has really been in the last sort of 5 years or so. I have a brother with a disability, and basically right before the pandemic, I just saw some of the challenges he was facing with staying connected with his friends in video games. Then when the pandemic happened, all of his schoolwork also going virtual and having a challenge with things like keyboard and mouse. And so just started working on ways that, he individually could have alternative inputs. I was streaming it on Twitch at the time, and then sort of grew it all from there.
Oh, amazing. Fascinating.
And what is your favorite game or games that you love to play with your younger brother?
So with that younger brother, because I've got I'll say an abundance of siblings, but with my younger brother that sort of inspired this whole thing, he's very much still hooked on Minecraft. That is the number one game that we play together when I go home. He's got to show me all of his updates, and we make sure we get some time together to play. Other than that, Mario Kart is always a family staple, although it gets pretty competitive in my family once we get started.
Gets heated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I love it. That's bringing me back as well. It makes me happy. Could you share your journey that kind of led from the initial vision to what Cephable is today?
Yeah, so it's a pretty fun sort of story, I guess. It all sort of started Christmas 2019. I went home to visit my family. My younger brother's 15 years younger than me, so he's still living at home. He's in high school. Basically, 2019, went home, saw him trying to play Minecraft with some of his friends online and with some of my other siblings, just having a hard time keeping up. And then also started to sort of observe that hard time keeping up turning into and evolving into being left out, which was a frustrating thing for me to see personally. At the time, I was running product and engineering at a company called Voicify, which is a platform for building voice assistants. Did a lot of work on the major voice assistants you know and love and or hate, depending on your take. And so I was working on some new research for different approaches to speech recognition. And when the pandemic hit, I also had a whole lot more time to do that. So on the side, I started streaming on Twitch, both as a way to teach people how to code and sort of inspire creating new things, but also as like time allocated towards working on this research. And so it actually started at the very first version, hacking an Amazon Alexa device to turn into a controller to play Dark Souls and to play Call of Duty. And so there's some old clips out there you can see with me saying like, Alexa, tell the Call of Duty controller to shoot, and then like wait 3 seconds, and then it actually like would shoot in the game. Which is pretty interesting. Or like, tell the Dark Souls controller to roll away or to dodge, and wait like 3 seconds, and then it would dodge away. So some really interesting approaches there. But what was cool is like there you could sort of see this tie through to like alternative inputs in the moment, regardless of all the technical hurdles of having to use Amazon Alexa and having all the sort of wake word challenges and the sort of full length speech and processing all your speech online. At the same time, I also was working on some computer vision research to track things like face and hand movement, to turn those into inputs as well. And so I competed in this hackathon actually from Snapchat, that they did, just this big global online hackathon, just seeing what people could do with the Snapchat platform. And if you've never used Snapchat before, it's a social media app where you take pictures of yourself and you send it to friends. But they've got all sorts of like interesting filters, and they've got some developer tools that allow you to build what they call custom lenses. So bear with me while I explain the hackiest version of Cephable that ever existed for camera controls, which was you had to install this custom app that we built, the royal we, me and Twitch chat, I guess. That app had just a single button that would then open the Snapchat app with a custom lens that we built. That custom lens would track things like your eyebrow movement, your mouth movement, certain hand signals, and then it would just flash QR codes on the screen, because we couldn't like send stuff out of Snapchat to another app. It'd be very scary if you could, as a security concern. So instead we flashed QR codes. Then you had to plug your phone into your computer and then run another app on your computer that would then watch your phone screen and check for the QR codes. Then when it detected a QR code, it would send an input to a physical Arduino controller that then would send an input back to the game. So all of this like wild roundabout stuff. But what was cool is once you have it all set up, you can raise your eyebrows and you can jump in Fall Guys, or you can mine in Minecraft by just moving your head forward to move forward and automatically mine and stuff like that. But those are the early dirty prototypes. And so sort of at that point where I had speech recognition, now no longer using Amazon Alexa, sort of this new custom stuff that I had built, and some version of using your camera from some device anyway to send inputs, I started working on the first prototype devices that were called enabled play, which some folks might have seen because we basically sold a few thousand of them, and they're still supported through the Cephable app for folks that do have them. But they're these little black boxes you would plug into your computer, you would plug into your video game console, and you would control it through the mobile app to send commands to it. So you could do voice controls, you could do face controls, you could set up buttons, which is really the sort of core to the different Cephable inputs now. And so what sort of happened was, instead of trying to sell a consumer assistive technology, I realized I could do a lot more with really leaning more on the software side of what it was. And so instead, rebranded and launched Cephable about a year ago, last August 2023. And all software. So you can download the app on your PC, on your Mac. You can download the mobile app. You can configure controls for different apps that you're using. And you can use your voice, you can use your face, you can use gestures, you can set up buttons across devices and sort of whatever works best for you to do things from a keyboard and mouse or automations within certain apps. And then we've been doing a whole lot of new stuff since then. I'm excited to talk about, but that's sort of the journey that led to us. A whole bunch of hacky stuff that inevitably, once users actually got their hands on it, like, oh, there's actually something here. And we can do a lot more with leaning on the software a bit.
Congratulations on the journey. That
Thanks.
story is really tech and very cool and exciting and amazing how you immediately recognized that your brother needed to have more of an inclusive experience.
Right.
And I'm very curious and wanting to lean in more about the software itself. So, how does it compare to some of the um, other technologies? And specifically, will you please describe the Cephable software and specifically interested in what makes it distinctive from other assistive tech?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Cephable platform is sort of two things. For an individual, it's an app. You can download it on Windows. You can download it on Mac. You can also get the companion app on iOS and Android. It's entirely free for individuals for any personal
Oh,
use, which is worth noting because that alone sort of
it
makes
is.
it pretty distinctive in the assistive tech space. That
Right.
at the same time as trying to build the most advanced assistive tech, we're trying to also sort of dismantle what we call the disability tax, which is the cost on procuring expensive tech to be able to use your computer or to stay productive at work or to have fun and stay connected with friends. So Selfable's free for any personal use. You can download the apps, you create an account for free, and then basically within the app you can configure what we call control profiles, which are basically your mappings of your different inputs to your different outputs. So if I, for example, am using something like PowerPoint and I want to be able to tilt my head to the right to go to the next slide while giving a presentation, I can map that from tilting my head to the right as like the right arrow key, for example. Or I could map voice commands for copy, paste, new slide, all that stuff. And there's a couple of different ways to build it. You can build those all manually, which a lot of people like to do, but it's pretty tedious. We also have templates for a bunch of stuff. So if you have like common use cases, certain games you're trying to play, certain apps you're trying to use, there's usually a template for it. But we also have Cephable's AI, which allows you to actually just describe how you need it to work for you. Meaning that I could say things like, I need to use PowerPoint and I want voice controls and head movement. And when I tilt my head to the right, it should go to the next slide and give me voice controls for all these common shortcuts. And it scaffolds it out for you. Or I'm trying to play Minecraft and when I move my head, it should move my character. And I need some help with like inventory management or building stuff with voice controls. Can you set something up like that for me? And it'll set it all up for you, which is pretty cool. You can also take those different controls, share them with the community. So like, for example, I'll build a set of controls for a game that I'm going to be playing with some of my friends, and then I'll send it to them, and then they get their own copy that they can customize to. And then you just turn on microphone, turn on camera, runs your speech recognition, and tracks your face and head movement all offline, so you don't have to be connected to the internet to use it. Your stuff is never streamed or recorded. It never leaves your device. All that machine learning is happening, whether it's on your phone or on your PC, in an offline and personal way.
This is incredibly cool. I
Thanks.
said cool a few times, but I need to say incredibly cool. Like that is, wow. Like I
It
want
is
to
a
stop
wow.
what I'm doing right now and go play with it. Like this is awesome. Thank you.
It is certainly a wow and so extensive. Again, a big congratulations to you of all of the success and growth that you have had with your innovation in just over a year. That's tremendous. And what valuable knowledge have you gained since you have founded and created the software in this new role as the CEO of Cephable?
Oh my gosh, there might be too much that I've learned that in terms of time we have to talk about it. But I'll say specifically as a CEO and not so much on the technology side,
Mhm.
I've definitely learned a lot more how to wayfind the disability community and the many community organizations that are out there that are there to support and how we basically can best connect with individuals that we're trying to help use Suffible. There's been so much insights in how to work, even here in the U.S., like with this different state assistive technology programs, with
Mhm.
like outpatient rehab centers, with the many different, just like in general, nonprofit, non-government organizations, and also how to wayfind some of the governmental and compliance side as well, which has been fun. I think the other main thing I've learned is that there's and this might be a little contentious, but there's a lot of people that are willing to champion accessibility And there's a lot of people who are also willing to sort of take advantage of that for their own messaging without actually sort of making an impact. And I'm not going to sort of name names in that space, but there definitely seems to be some companies that like to latch on to, for example, like Cephable story, and not just us, of course, but others too. But then sort of stop at the point of the story has been told, and now we don't need to go further. And that's one of the things that we on the whole Cephable team had to learn very early in terms of how we pick and choose what partners we're working with, and who we're supporting in order to like get Cephable out, who we're helping integrate Cephable into their own apps and products in order to really actually make an impact versus like trying to essentially, for lack of a better term, like virtue signal in the space without actually sort of creating the impact. And for us, like we're a mission driven company. Our whole story started with trying to support individuals in our lives. And so it's important to us to sort of maintain that, sort of find that balance in the space too.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for your thoughtfulness for our community of people with disabilities and for that integrity.
There's always more to learn, but truly teaming with the right partners makes that journey that much easier and that much more that you don't have to do it alone. Which
Right.
it's there's no point to do it alone. There's such beautiful community out there. Just finding the right people to join on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you see the role of assistive technology evolving in the next 10 to 15 years, especially with kind of AI and machine learning continuing to advance?
Yeah, I sort of see it from a few different angles. I think the democratization of assistive technology in both the physical and digital space is something we're going to see advance in the next sort of 5 to 10 years, making it easier to actually acquire assistive tech. One of the things that we've studied and learned over the last 3 years or so is just the actual challenge of procuring things that you need, whether that's going through insurance and trying to navigate that, which we all know can be a nightmare, all the way to just like getting funding for certain types of tools and procedures. I've also sort of specifically noted that accessibility is definitely becoming more of a forefront conversation in product development. And there's this intersection of assistive technology and accessibility in general, right? Like if I'm a screen reader user, I need to make sure that tools are accessible for my screen reader. If I'm a Switch user, I need to make sure that tools are accessible to my Switch interface. If I'm a voice user, I need to make sure those things work. And so where we're sort of trying to play is right down the middle of that, which is we want to be the best assistive tech for individuals, but we also want to be the means for other folks to make their products more accessible. You can do things like integrate Cephable directly into your own web apps. You can integrate into your own mobile apps, your video games, things like that as well, which means that a Cephable user can bring their already personalized controls to your sort of interface on whatever device it is. Basically, quick link their account, get all their camera controls and microphone controls and their personalized models running. And so I think that's where the power of AI is coming into play, and it's a big focus for us. We are an AI-powered platform, from generating controls to running machine learning models that process your speech and adapt your speech offline, and process your face and adapt to your face and gestures over time. That it's a means to bridge some of the communication divide that is the accessibility gap. There's sort of this like two different ways that we communicate to technology. There's us trying to communicate to software to a machine, and there's receiving the information back, just like how we talk to individuals. And so I think accessibility in general has been very heavily focused on one direction, and assistive technology has been very focused on the other direction. Of like assistive tech is very heavily involved in the way that you communicate to it, and a lot of accessibility sort of standards and compliance standards have been very focused on how you receive information out of it. And so I think AI can be a communication layer between those two to make things more accessible, to make them more personalized. But I also feel like there's risk in exploring that. So I'm curious to see how it pans out over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. But I think that gap we'll see filled for sure. We might have more hurdles along the way because of sort of wrong implementations or wrong expectations set around what AI can do. But I think we'll eventually get there.
It's making me think so much about creating the full environment rather than just me using a quad stick at a moment to control my computer, but using it with voice control plus face controls plus it's just there's so many different ways of controlling environment and putting it in combination to give you a fluid experience. Like it's like I'm I'm leaving here today with just an excitement for the future. And thank you, Alex. And I know we're not done yet, but you got me going, buddy.
Right on. I mean, I'm definitely excited about the future and sort of where accessibility, where assistive tech, and sort of the intersection of those two, plus just the advancements in software and machine learning are going. I mean, there's so much to do, but there's so much to solve, and so many cool solutions that we haven't even seen come out yet that keep me excited every day.
So cool.
That's great, Alex. Thank you. I want to hone in more on this community engagement. And again, I applaud you for recognizing the value that organizations like Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind and the community that we serve bring to different organizations, entrepreneurs, innovators like yourself. And I want to ask, so how specifically does your team at Cephable engage the community of assistive technology users who are blind or visually impaired in order to enhance the future offerings?
Yeah, so community development is been key to us since the very beginning. The way that we specifically sort of engage is really two main focus areas. We partner with organizations that are working every day to support individuals with disabilities across the sort of wide spectrum of what that really means, from blind and low vision users, deaf and hard of hearing users, mobility and fine motor control impairments, and sort of really neurodivergent and IDD, like everything in between. So from state assistive tech programs to like the Perkins School for the Blind, which is obviously closer to where I am here in Boston, to the Cerebral Palsy Alliance Research Foundation and the remarkable accelerator we went through, the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, the Amputee Coalition, like so many partners that we work with to make sure that, one, we're helping reach the right people, but also to be able to elevate what they're doing in the community and make sure that their resources are also in front of our users. The other side of what we do is we've built what we call our consortium, mostly because we have a lot of symbolism with the octopus, and a group of octopus is called a consortium. Fun science fact for everyone out there. So we have our consortium of users, which are essentially folks that use Cephable every single day and want to go further and work with our product development team. So from like early concept ideas to bounce off the community and get, sort of information back, all the way to like testing early prototypes, giving feedback on the current implementation that's out there. We work every single day with our consortium. Every engineer on our team works with the consortium. Everyone on the product team does. They're core to our team. So we basically pay people for the time that they give us, and then try to basically give them the early access to things on the Cephable side. But that consortium, which I have to shout out specifically on our team, Julia Franklin and John Campbell, who've really sort of focused on building that. That building side of that consortium is focused on bringing in as diverse of an audience as possible, whether that's from languages spoken to the disabilities that they live with, to the core use cases that they really care about. Like what are they trying to do, for example, like with their computer? I'm trying to get as diverse of an aspect of what people can be using assistive tech for in order to inform that. So we have, for example, in the blind community, folks that are blind or low vision. We have screen reader users. We have blind low vision users that hate screen readers and refuse to use them. Both as a way to validate that our app on its own is accessible along the way, but also that we're actually creating additional value on top of the existing assistive technology that people are using. Whether it's JAWS, NVDA, or something like that, like what can we do to basically create additional extensions on top of that to be able to make a more dynamic experience or more productive or comfortable experience. But it's really just sort of core to what we do with everyone in our community. So we work with our partners, we work with people every day, and try to just build the best things we can.
Sounds great. Sounds like a robust package you have there to make sure you have the testing, the community development as you described. Very important elements to innovate. Thank you.
Yeah, and I love hearing about the community integration, but I would love to hear more about kind of within the business world, how to better support kind of the adoption and integration of assistive technology in the workplace for businesses.
Yeah, definitely an area of focus for us. So like on top of like where we license Cephable to integrate into other folks' apps, we also do license it as a workforce accommodation or workplace accommodation. And it's interesting that there's sort of currently this divide that we've observed, which is that some companies, in the way that they handle adoption and rollout of assistive tech, or really any like accommodation, whether that's ADA accommodations or otherwise, some are really mature in the way that they do it. They seek out the latest technology, they vet that technology, and then they make it available to literally anybody that just needs something like that, or even just wants to try it. And then there are other companies that are just so far behind and put a lot of pressure on individuals to actually request a very specific solution, which means that if you're an individual with a disability and you're going to, for example, your HRIT or your manager or whoever within the company you work for, and you're saying, I need this type of accommodation, some companies are still putting it on the individual to go source the specific thing, find something that's going to work within their IT environment, and then go fill out the request form and support the actual onboarding of that. And it's such a tedious process for an individual to undertake. And it also means that like every person now needs to really go outwardly identify their disability needs to their HR team, which we know not everyone is as comfortable with doing, although that percentage is growing, which is great through like better self-ID processes. But I think in general, like the companies that we see and the ones that we work with that do the best are the ones that are actively seeking out the best solutions for their employees, because they know retaining and creating a comfortable working environment for any individual is just better for the company, even from like a purely capitalistic perspective. It's better to keep and treat your people right than it is to go fight them and or like try to find different people for certain roles. And so the companies that know that, they find the best solutions, they get them implemented no matter what, and they make it really easy to just get it without having to go through like a full self-ID process or a traditional like ADA reasonable accommodation request. So I'd say like in general in the workforce, like more companies striving to be that person within their company for their employees, or to be that company to be able to actually support a better employee base. Like that's what people should be striving for. Just make it easy for people to get what's going to make them happier or more productive or more comfortable in the workplace. Like sounds like it shouldn't be that hard, but of course in like large corporations, there's all fun red tape and everything else. But the better that you sort of build processes around it, the happier your team is going to be.
That's a great answer.
Thank you, Alex, for joining this episode of Where Are We Now and Spotlight Sessions Collaboration Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And if anyone is interested in learning more about Cephable, you can find us on our website, just cephable.com. It's CEPHABLE. Or on socials, we're just Cephable everywhere. But give it a try. Again, it's free, so there's no harm in trying it. And let us know what you think. We're always excited to work with everyone.
I want to follow up with exactly what Jocelyn said. Thank you so much, Alex. And for all of our guests, thank you for staying to the end. And please take a moment to check out CLB's Where Are We Now digital series by visiting the CLB YouTube page. You can learn more about accessiBe and the Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind by subscribing on YouTube and following us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Find us using our handles at accessiBe_community and at Columbia Lighthouse. We're looking forward to our next episode, and as always, thank you so much for being on this journey with us, and thank you again, Alex. Bye, everyone.